you're like 99% of small business owners, your digital marketing is taking up way too much of your time and you've got nothing to show for it. So if you're confused about what marketing strategy you need, disappointed with your results so far, or you're just unsure about what to do next, in this extra thorough video, I'm gonna take you through all 5 categories of digital marketing so you can see the mistakes to avoid and what's working best right now. I'll also share 2 super simple hacks that you can use to get even more out of your marketing. And finally, my 3-part digital marketing super strategy that's gonna help you grow like never before, even if you ignored everything else in this video. Let's do it. If you handle the marketing for your own business, you've been blasted with this advice for the past decade.
You'd want to make a YouTube video.
You have to do video.
Video content is the way to go.
Put out amazing videos and then more of them.
But what all these marketing gurus aren't telling you is that there's actually a scientific reason why you need to be using video in your business. And once you unlock this secret, you're gonna understand how to tap into a really powerful connection with your prospects, making your business unstoppable. Picture yourself back in the 1950s, lounging on your plastic-covered couch, eyes glued to the black and white television set. There you are, watching your favorite TV personality as they make you laugh, sell you cigarettes, and pretty much just make you feel like you're in the room with them. It's like they're your close friend, but you've never even met them. How could that be?
People were watching TV in their homes for the first time. They had this screen where their newscasters or their favorite late night hosts were talking directly to the screen. And so psychologists were interested in how we were processing those people that we're seeing on screen.
So researchers Donald Horton and Richard Wohl decided to investigate this puzzling connection between TV personalities and their audiences. As they peeled back the layers, Horton and Wohl discovered that these TV stars were absolute pros at creating a cozy sense of intimacy and familiarity, especially when they would break the fourth wall during commercial breaks and talk right to you, the audience. By speaking directly to viewers, a funny thing happened. They actually managed to create an illusion of friendship, even though that relationship was totally one-sided. And the reason it exists is all to do with how our brains are hardwired to take in information, especially human faces.
I've done a lot of interviews with people about their connections to characters and celebrities. What we found is that we process new faces the same way, whether we see those faces in person or see them on screen.
I mean, technology moves pretty fast, faster than our biology can keep up with.
We've had just film and radio for about 100 years. That's it. It's been popular mass media for such a short period of time compared to the rest of the time we've been on this earth.
So Horton and Wohl wrote the definitive research paper on this phenomenon, and they called it a parasocial relationship. Zoom ahead to today, and we're living in the social media era where the parasocial relationship has skyrocketed. You know, people are forming these perceived relationships with not just TV and movie personalities, but influencers, TikTokers, even small business owners like yourself, all thanks to the incredible power of video content. So what's the real upside of putting out regular video content and encouraging these parasocial relationships from your prospects to your business? I found this out for myself firsthand. You know, back in 2010, long before I was here on YouTube, I was a web designer with my own small studio. I was doing okay. I had clients, and the way I got them was pretty standard. They'd find my website from a Google search, they'd set up a consultation call, and they'd pretty much just sit back, arms folded, and they wanted me to really prove my worth to them. They'd start off by asking me how much a website is, and then I'd explain that, I have this deep discovery process to get to know what they need out of the website to get them more business from it. And that made sense to some people, but most were just like, okay, that's nice, but how much for a website and how fast can I get it? And my close rate from those calls was maybe 50%, and I'd make usually like $2,000 to $6,000 for a website. So it was a grind and not a really profitable one at that. Then right around 2017, I started this YouTube channel. It didn't take off overnight, but slowly but surely, I started noticing little changes. I was getting more consult call requests, and something even better. When I was on those calls, the energy was just different. It wasn't uncommon for my prospective clients to start it off by saying something like, "Oh my God, I feel like I know you already," and even, "I can't believe I'm talking to you." What? And as flattering as that was in itself, the real benefit came in the form of more clients being booked at higher prices because, due to higher demand, I was able to start charging more, and I was getting a lot more cooperation from my clients too, because they'd already seen my methods on YouTube. They were much more bought into my process. In other words, they trusted me to do my thing way more than they ever were pre-YouTube. And the way they'd been watching my little YouTube videos, one then another, their brains treated those 10-minute one-sided interactions as if I was talking to them one-on-one over coffee. And you can't recreate that same feeling from writing blog posts or posting images. Video has the distinct advantage over just about every other form of content. And you've got it pretty good right now. Pretty much every social platform's rewarding short-form video content, and your future customers are watching a lot of it. So all you really need to do is create bite-sized 30-second clips on a regular basis to achieve the same thing that I had to make 10-minute plus videos for. So here are some of my best tips to help make your videos work even harder for you. Be authentic. People can just sense when you're being genuine, and that authenticity goes a really long way in establishing trust. So show your true self in your videos, and don't be afraid to share your personality, your values, even some behind the scenes moments. So this is not the time for your buttoned up professional self. I don't care what industry you're in. This is Dr. Dre. Nope, not that one, this one. She's a dermatologist with a massive YouTube following, and while she could be in a lab coat in her office reading from a super polished script that she wrote, she doesn't do it that way, and she's a doctor. She's not preoccupied with how professional she comes across. She's casual. She's just giving you advice from her bedroom a lot of the time, which really contributes to her feeling less like someone lecturing you on why you should be wearing sunscreen, and more like your good friend who just happens to be a doctor giving you her best advice. Tell stories. Our brains are wired to latch onto and respond to stories. So share your journey, your successes, and even your struggles. This is going to help humanize your brand and create a connection that's pretty hard to resist. Engage with your audience, encourage comments and questions from your viewers, and take the time to respond thoughtfully. This interaction helps strengthen that bond and shows your audience that you genuinely care about them. Educate and entertain, offer value to your viewers by sharing those helpful tips, tricks, or insights that are related to your industry. Keep it interesting and engaging so they watch not one, but 2, 3, 20 of your videos. Smart businesses have been taking advantage of this little marketing hack since way before marketing hacks even existed. It doesn't involve changing what you offer or even offering anything that's any better or different than what the other guys down the street have to sell. Sometimes to see the most success in your industry, all you need to do is focus on what everyone else is ignoring. Back in the early 1900s, the beer market was crazy competitive. Every brand was fighting for attention. At the time, they were all using brown bottles to keep their beer fresh. It has something to do with filtering out light. But nobody was really talking about the brown bottles as a feature or the resulting freshness as a benefit. That's when Claude C. Hopkins, an advertising legend, stepped in to help Schlitz stand out. When he discovered that these brown bottles were the key to keeping beer fresh, he saw his in. He'd build a whole marketing campaign around it, highlighting the brown bottles as a unique selling point for Schlitz, even though everybody was using the same bottles. By emphasizing this unspoken feature, Schlitz became the brand you thought of when you thought of fresh beer. They made a huge splash in the market, making people believe they were getting something superior. The result? Sales skyrocketed and Schlitz became one of the top-selling beers in the US. But chances are you don't sell beer, so how can you use the same principles to help double your own sales and client generation on your website? Well, Every industry, even yours, has certain common features and benefits that most, if not all, of your competitors also provide. But the thing is, these features often go unnoticed because no one's talking about them. And that common oversight can be your unique opportunity to stand out. The first step here would just be to list out all the features that you provide to your customers, whether they're unique to your business or not. So if you do have some unique ones, great. If you're not already talking about those on your website, you should start. But if all those features you offer really aren't too different from your competition, your next move is just to start looking at their websites. What items on your list do you just not see coming up very often, either ignored completely or minimized to the point of irrelevance? I just got married, and when we hired our DJ, we had no idea that he offered all of the lighting equipment that would make our venue look really amazing. It came up after the fact, and I learned from our wedding planner that they pretty much all offer that, either included in the DJ cost or for a really low add-on price. That eliminated the need for us to source that from a different vendor, which was a huge benefit that was never even brought up. With a sea of wedding DJ websites that pretty much feel the same and all promise to, pack your dance floor, a really welcome add-on like this would definitely make whichever smart business that chose to publicize that stand out, even though it's not actually that unique. Step 2 would be to go further than to simply bring up the feature. What you really want to talk about is the benefit behind the feature. And that's because features are really just things, and nobody buys things. They buy results, outcomes, pleasure, and avoiding problems. In other words, benefits outsell features all day long. Let's take a cleaning service, for example. Pretty much every cleaning person I've ever used comes with their own cleaning products, even vacuum cleaners in some cases. And you don't really see that brought up on their websites very much. So if one of these cleaning businesses were to make a big deal about it on their site, it would help them stand apart. But again, provided cleaning products isn't really a benefit in itself. It's just the feature. The real benefit is that I, the client, don't need to worry about adding cleaning products to my shopping list, and I never have to worry about running out of anything. It's handled. Sounds like a little thing, but imagine shopping around for someone to clean your house, and only one of your options specifically mentions that you don't have to stock up on cleaning products, or pay for them, or, wonder which ones you should even have. That can be a deciding factor when it seems like they're the only one offering that level of service. Getting your business found in search is actually pretty easy. I mean, there are thousands of experts online with plenty to say on the subject. So with all that free-flowing advice, #1 rankings are as good as right around the corner. Which is what I would be saying if the internet wasn't so full of bad and outdated SEO information that can actually keep you off of the first page of Google forever. Now, these are a few of the worst yet extremely persistent pieces of SEO advice that you may have heard and maybe you're still following on your website. We'll talk about why it's bad advice, how it's probably keeping you off the first page of Google, and what you should be following instead. So when you make these simple shifts, you're going to be really surprised how your results can start turning around. The first piece of bad advice: that keywords are king. So most SEO advice goes a little something like this. Step 1, research your keywords. Step 2, write content that uses those keywords as many times as possible. Step 3, profit. Now don't get me wrong, keywords are important, but they aren't the be-all end-all they used to be, and here's why. Google's pretty much in the business of being a lot smarter than you or I, even if their intelligence is of the artificial variety. So even if your webpage doesn't use the exact phrase "dentist in Akron, Ohio" 17 times, if you can tell the page is for a dentist in Akron, you can safely bet they know too. So you may be thinking, okay, fair enough, but adding my keyword 100 times couldn't hurt, right? Actually, it can. Think about what happens when you see a keyword jammed into a page over and over again. Does it read well? Is it persuasive? Probably not, right? Because it's hard to balance keyword stuffing with well-crafted, convincing copywriting. So when you focus on keywords and keywords alone, you're actually ignoring one of Google's most important ranking factors: how your site visitors react to your content. So if you scare them off with stilted wording, they're just gonna bounce pretty quick. And that can hurt your ability to rank in the future, not to mention, you just chased off a potential customer. Bummer. So rather than picking a keyword to use and reuse over and over again, just use it a few times in a few key places, like in the top headline, in a subheadline, and maybe once or twice in the regular body copy. Other than that, if you talk about what you do in an engaging way, you'll naturally use some of the words that Google would expect to find on a page in your industry. Plus, you'll be freed up to build a really strong case for why your prospects should work with you. Win-win. Bad SEO advice number 2, link building is dead. Now, before you dust off your black suit, I am here to tell you the nail isn't in that coffin quite yet. So there was a time in the early days of the World Wide Web where backlinks, or websites linking to other websites, were pretty much the only signal that Google had to gauge how popular, authoritative, or good a website is. The way it went was, the web page with the most sites linking to it won the race because, hey, more sites are linking to it, therefore it must be the best one. Now smash cut to today when, like I said, Google, she be smart.
Clever girl.
So some SEO experts out there have swung way too hard the other way and claim that since Google's so smart, links don't even matter anymore. Just focus on creating great content, they said. The rest will take care of itself, they said. I wish. While it's true that backlinks don't reign quite as supreme as they did back in 1998, they do still pack a punch. So by focusing completely on only what goes on your website, without ever doing any work to try to get other relevant, high-quality websites to link to yours, you'll get absolutely eaten alive by your competition who is. Told ya. So yeah, backlinks are still pretty key to high rankings, and here are a few tips to make sure that you get them right. First, make sure you only chase after links from high quality, real websites, and make sure those websites are related to your niche, right? If you're an interior designer, getting a link from a pet blog isn't gonna do much for you. You're useless to me. Now, if you want to build these links yourself, you can write guest posts for relevant blogs or even go on relevant podcasts as an expert guest, and they'll usually link back to whatever page you want them to. But if you're going to pay for those links, make sure you know what you're paying for. Now, I generally like to pay more for higher quality links on a real blog that people actually read, as opposed to a bunch of spammy links that are on these really sketchy looking websites that are pretty much just there for the purpose of selling links on. They call those private blog networks, and they're garbage. Bad advice number 3. There's a perfect length for SEO. Now, I get it. People love hard and fast rules to live by. Always wait 30 minutes after eating before swimming. Drink Pedialyte with vodka to avoid hangovers, and write your web pages to be at least 1,000 words. So, while I happen to agree with the first two, the last one's just plain wrong and can lead to some pretty uninspired writing. I remember back in high school when we had to write a 3-page book report on Catcher in the Rye. Actually, it was more closely based on the Cliff's Notes of Catcher in the Rye, but we'll keep that just between you and me. But when you have a length to hit, what do most of us do? We pad it, baby. We double space. We use more words than necessary to say the same thing. And that extra length isn't what's going to help you. Backlinko actually did a study back in 2016 analyzing 11.8 million Google search results to see if there's actually anything to this word count thing. Their study revealed that the average page 1 result on Google contained 1,890 words of content. So, as you might expect, people took that tidbit and ran with it. What the study can't tell us though is if that word count itself was behind the rankings, or if a longer page just happens to contain more useful information that Google and site visitors can grab onto than a shorter one. Spoiler alert, it's the second one. So rather than focusing on word count alone, focus on being more thorough and complete than your top competition. Bad advice number 4, your website has to be lightning fast to rank. I can't tell you how many of my students and YouTube viewers come to me saying that they got a really low score in Google PageSpeed Insights, and they're ready to just eliminate every image on their website in order to get into the green zone so they can have a better chance of ranking in searches. Now don't get me wrong, page speed matters a lot. However, it won't necessarily cause your website to dramatically increase or decrease in rankings. Now, the truth is, they tend to treat page speed as more of a tiebreaker between two otherwise equally weighted pages. And in fact, Google representatives Gary Ilias, Martin Splitt, and John Mueller recently chatted in the Search Off the Record podcast about why that is.
You can make a really fast empty page, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily a good result for people.
So rather than stripping your website down to the point of black text on a bare white page, which isn't going to be very appetizing for your visitors,
What the fuck is this?
you're much better off trying to make your site feel fast while keeping all the richness that comes with images and video that's really going to help you sell what you're offering. And to help you do that, just use the NitroPack plugin, which is going to reduce your image file sizes, and it's going to add a lazy loading feature to your site, which essentially just prioritizes loading only what the user sees when they first get to your website. Then, after that, they start loading the rest of the content bit by bit as they start to scroll down. To your users, it feels really fast, and they still get the full experience. Bad advice number 5, social media will help you rank. So, since the early 2010s, every SEO blog you can read has been inundated with posts about this idea of social signals as a new ranking factor. These posts basically theorized that Google was really heavily weighing everything from how many likes and shares your web page has got on Facebook to your number of followers to your social media posts themselves. It was wrong then, and it's even more wrong today. So here's a really brief timeline of how it all went down. In 2010, Google said that this wasn't a thing. In 2012, they said they were trying it. This is pretty much where Google Plus came from, if you remember that. Then in 2014, they admitted that it didn't work out and was once again not a thing. So does this mean that you shouldn't concentrate on social anymore? Not at all. So if social is in line with other aspects of your marketing strategy, it certainly has its place. But don't expect the stuff you post on Instagram or even one of your blog posts going viral over on LinkedIn to help you with ranking in search, at least not directly. We know that backlinks are a ranking factor, and we also know that social media can get more eyeballs on your site's content, and that can lead to more people linking to that content, but that's it. What if you discovered that the reason you click on a Facebook or Instagram ad wasn't actually your choice, but that some really clever advertisers were hacking your brain in a way that forced you to click and buy? And the reason they have to do this is because if you don't click, they could lose out on millions of dollars in revenue. So in this video, we're going to reveal the astonishing psychology tactics that they use to do this and how you can do the same with your Facebook ads. If you're running Facebook ads, the number one challenge you face is noise. It is loud out there, ads, reels, videos, pictures. A lot of potential customers scroll aimlessly through their timelines, maybe stopping for a couple seconds if they see something they like. That's a problem. How are you supposed to drive revenue to your business with Facebook ads when you only have a few seconds to capture a customer's attention? You gotta get inside their brain. That's why I hopped on a Zoom call with Dara Denny, a fellow YouTube creator and more importantly, a true Facebook ads expert. And her specialty is combining cold hard data with proven ad creatives to jostle your potential customers out of their seats. Talking to her was honestly a treasure trove of Jedi mind tricks and insights into Facebook user psychology. I'm not a mind reader, I can't tell what your potential customers on Facebook are thinking, but talking to Dara gave me a few mind tricks that almost feel like using Facebook telepathy.
So the reality is every time your Facebook ad shows up on someone's Instagram feed or Facebook feed, they are not always primed and ready to buy. In fact, they might have a reason or a few reasons why they don't want to buy. So I think one of the best ad strategies there is to actually attack those head on.
In other words, do your customers' thinking for them and handle their objections before they can even object. If you look out for the top customer questions before most customers even have a chance to ask them, you're going to dissolve most of their objections proactively. But that creates a new problem. How do you find out customer objections before they happen? Well, you've got a few options. The first is add comments. If you've run an ad already, you might have noticed a few Facebook users adding comments, complaints, questions, or concerns. Don't ignore these. They're definitely worth their weight in gold, but only if you take them seriously. So jot them all down, then rewind. Just ask yourself, what kind of concern made this person write that? Here's an example. So if they're complaining that your ad seems too good to be true, it means you're lacking credibility or authority. If they're saying it looks too hard to use, show them how easy it is. Build their biggest objections into your next ad and just watch the objections disappear. But what if you haven't run any ads yet, or if your ads just don't have enough comments to be helpful?
They can actually get ahead of their competition if they would go to their competitors' ads, or even if it's a bit of a reach competitor or someone that's really big in their industry. Like I said, your customers and potential consumers are always giving feedback, and they're probably likely giving feedback to your competitors.
Next, look at the questions you get on social media. So if you receive enough questions, organize them into categories that you're noticing, like questions about pricing or concerns about quality. Then just rank them by how many you get. The most commonly asked question is now the top obstacle that you need to address in your future ads.
And sometimes people will even just give you that feedback directly in your email flows or in the DMs. Your customer or potential customers are always giving you feedback, and they're very likely going to tell you, hey, this is the reason why I'm not ready to buy right now.
Okay, so maybe you don't have this kind of audience presence just yet. Maybe people aren't dropping pitch perfect questions in your DMs, but that's not an excuse to skip this step. Get a little sneaky and look at your top competitors' entire web presence. I'm talking review sites, socials, you name it, because there are plenty of user objections to be found right in public. Now here's the trick. You've gathered some valuable feedback, you have a list of your customers' top questions and objections. So what do you do with them? This is oats overnight. So they were getting a really frequent objection that their prices were just too high. Well, they weren't about to lower their prices, but they did handle the objection with just a little bit of creativity. They started telling the story of how they source their oats. They explained the quality of ingredients, the superior packaging that keeps things fresher. They even told potential customers how much it costs to get oats this good. So the objection of "you're too expensive" suddenly becomes, look at all these high quality ingredients. Of course it's expensive, it's better. By preempting the customer's objection, you turn a potential complaint into a selling point.
Let me see your identification.
You don't need to see his identification.
We don't need to see his identification.
Handling objections will have you speaking your customer's language, but how do you get your story to resonate in the first place?
Your product or service should always be solving a problem that your customer has. And one of the best ways to not only hook the attention of your users and to get them more interested is to actually, take the knife that is already inside of them and twist it a little bit more.
And you should do this by figuring out your customer's main problem, then elaborating on it. So don't avoid the problem. Go the opposite way. Talk about it more. What are all the little symptoms of that problem? How does it affect the customer? How does it lead to downstream effects on their life that customers absolutely hate? So don't stop at saying, here's a problem that my service solves. Really dig deep into what's been bugging your customers lately, the problem that you can fix. But there's one caveat. So what about Facebook? I know that they typically don't want you to stir up those negative emotions in your ad creatives, right? So how do you twist the knife if you have to kind of tread lightly with your language?
I think that there is a big difference between what Facebook/Meta wants to be perceived as trying to steer in terms of what kind of content they want on their platform and what is actually speaking and, getting a reaction from the users. We've actually done several tests with my clients where we will lean into negative marketing. So we will take things from a negative stance versus a positive stance. And we almost always find that the negative approach tends to work a little bit better.
The truth is, people are sick of false positivity at this point. We gotta face it, a little drama and negativity sells. The Real Housewives ain't a polite tea party. Nobody would watch it if it were. And elaborating on your customer's problem can be surprisingly authentic. And if it feels at all icky to you, just remember, it's not about, casting a future of doom and gloom. It's really more about giving words to the thoughts that your customers already have in their head. So if you can explain what they're experiencing, they'll not only assume that you get them, but that you have the way out too. But straightforward problem-solution storytelling doesn't always work.
What people are actually really attracted to on TikTok is intimacy and vulnerability and getting to know people, the people behind the brands. So what I've actually started testing out with a lot of my clients is starting their ads off with a personal storyline.
A traditional TV commercial, something you might see in the 80s, would tell a familiar story.
I've got a headache this big. No more headache. 2 Excedrin. That's all it took.
Problem and solution. Sounds good, right? The issue is that there's just no emotional resonance here, just questionable acting. But in the age of social media, people crave authenticity. So Dara worked with a supplement company who started running UGC, user-generated content ads. And these ads delved into a customer's specific issue from the past and dwelled on a personal story angle.
And we found that those were the top performing ads again and again. And it was a really repeatable process for them. They learned, okay, our users really just want to hear from other people just like them.
You can see examples of this personal story approach working all over the place. In 2009, a journalist and a writer kicked off an experiment that they called significant objects. They went out and bought a bunch of insignificant objects, cheap things that they could buy for about $1 each. Then they had a bunch of writers write stories around each product. One cheap, ugly mug became a story from a birthday party. It was bought for 39 cents and they sold it on auction for 31 bucks. In fact, telling stories about each object drove the price up everywhere, and people often wanted the specific object from the story that they'd heard. But even if that strategy works for TikTok and auction items, what about the business you're pitching on your Facebook ads? Does it work there? According to Dara, yes, it does.
The personal storyline, I've actually found that Meta and Instagram particularly has been heavily influenced by TikTok and by the way that users are actually interacting on that platform. So now a lot more people are utilizing Reels, and a lot of the user interaction on the actual platform is starting to become a little bit more like TikTok, which is why I think that this personal storytelling line also works really well for Meta ads.
But let's imagine now that you're a new business without customers, which means no customer stories. Do you try to build a story for a customer avatar, or should you really focus on a legitimate story to tell?
I'll be candid, I've done both. I've hired UGC creators to act on a testimonial that maybe one of our customers had written that maybe wasn't as true to the creator. But what I've always found is that when the creator or influencer is speaking to something that is truly unique to them, that is when we tend to find a lot more performance. And that's really how I go about working with creators now. If I have a brand that wants to work with a creator and they want to try out a personal story or personal history storyline, I make sure that that storyline is most authentic to the creator, as opposed to just kind of peddling what sort of angle the brand wants to test.
So I'd recommend not making up stories. People's BS detectors are generally going to give you away there. So honesty and authenticity are the goals here. Next mind trick, lean into the true desires of your customer.
So there are 8 primal desires that every person has, right? Number 1 is survival, to live a long and healthy life. Number 2 is protection, so safety, care, and protection for yourself and your loved ones. 3, freedom, 4, comfort, 5, pleasure, 6, relationships, 7, success, and 8, likability and social approval.
That makes 8 potential customer needs that you can tap into. You don't need to use them all, and you actually shouldn't. Just think about the 1 or 2 that most closely align with the desire that your customers have. Dara mentions cuts clothing and true classics. On the surface, companies that sell clothes only hit on one basic need, staying dressed. But Dara said these brands succeed by leaning into our desire to be needed or to be appealing.
They're really leaning into the idea of relationships, especially sexual relationships, and being appealing to the opposite sex. And they will actually use in their hooks, oh, my wife found me more attractive because of this t-shirt, or my wife can't keep her hands off of me when I'm wearing these jeans. So if you take a step back and you think about, hey, what do my customers actually desire? Not just like from the product, not just from the problem that we're solving.
100% cotton, machine washable. That's all well and good, but my wife couldn't keep her hands off me after I put on this shirt is a much more primal reason to click. And at the end of the day, we're pretty much all just animals. This marketing agency saw a 40% increase in new clients just because they added one simple sentence to their website. It may sound like a cheat, but it's completely backed by science and human psychology. In fact, when average consumers were asked, 45% of them said that when they see this principle in action, it makes them more interested in buying, as opposed to only 17% who say that it turns them off. So, what is this cheat code to more interest and more sales? Imagine you're casually checking out a personal trainer's website. You're not ready to commit, you're just looking for now. Then you notice that the site mentions they're down to their last available slot for the month. What does that information do to you? It triggers something, right? You suddenly feel a pressing need to grab that last spot, even though seconds ago you were just window shopping. Don't feel targeted or manipulated, it's just your brain playing by the rules of scarcity. Now, the principle of scarcity says that we want now what we think we may not be able to get in the future.
It's some unavailability or a restriction of some type.
That's Dr. Mindy Weinstein, and she literally wrote the book on scarcity. This one, in fact, The Power of Scarcity.
If you can, in some way, show that you're exclusive, you're selective, you have certain popular service bundles, the part of our brain that's associated with value will light up right away. And this has been seen in brain scans. So I'm not talking about scarcity in terms of telling a participant that they're not going to get food and water or something that's essential to their survival. I mean, these are things like an auction simulation, there's a sale going on. But the fact is the brain reacts the same way.
And this isn't just some random web tactic. There's actual data behind it. A study conducted by Northwestern University found that products with limited availability were rated as more attractive. It's almost like the potential of losing out on a product elevates its perceived value. And scarcity doesn't just make people want your services more.
The other thing that happens is quicker decisions are made. If you can incorporate scarcity in a truthful, fun way, authentic way, you can really take advantage of getting people closer to that decision and also helping them value what you provide even more.
And if you thought that scarcity marketing tactics only apply to products, it actually works even better with service businesses for the simple reason that
you can usually only help so many people, and so it already exists. So if you just tell people, your potential customers or clients, we take on this amount of projects at a time, or we have a wait list, all of that's still scarcity.
So what are the different varieties that scarcity comes in?
There's 4 different types of scarcity. There's supply related, demand related, there's time related, and limited edition.
So let's talk about each of these one at a time, along with some good examples of how a service business like yours might be able to take advantage of each one. Starting with supply related. And when we're talking a shortage in the supply for a service business, what that usually means is time, right? You may want to work with everybody who comes knocking on your door, but the truth is you're limited to a finite number of people that you can physically help in a day. All you need to do is make that known.
So you could say, you know what, I only take on 5 projects at a time, or my team only works with, 5 or 10 clients at any given time. We do have an opening coming up. We'd love to talk to you to see if we are a good fit for you. None of that's manipulative, none of it. And it's just the words you're using, and it's completely authentic. And what's interesting, if you use that type of verbiage, it really does change the conversation, because now they want to work with you because you've showed demand for you and your services or your team, but at the same time, you've also really showed that exclusivity. So them working with you, it's like they won. They got that spot. So there was one particular company that I consulted, and we talked a lot about the verbiage that they were using when they were talking to prospects. And once they started doing that, they actually increased their close rate in these meetings by 40%. So it does work.
I've seen a lot of service businesses actually take this one step further and make their prospects apply to work with them. The idea being that, we're so busy that we need to make sure that you're a good fit for us to make it worth it. Do those work, do you think, or do you think that goes a little too far?
Yeah, no, actually they do work. So though there is a fine line to it. So yes, have a little tiny bit of friction, but don't have it so much where you're giving someone this huge questionnaire that they have to fill out when something's attainable and we think it can, we're going to be a little bit more motivated. But if it's too daunting, they're not going to do it.
Ever notice how that packed restaurant on the corner makes you want to try it? That's demand-related scarcity in action. It's like they're silently telling you, this is what's hot right now.
So then with demand-related scarcity, that is showing popularity of some type. And this one is actually really easy with services, because you can do it in a few different ways. You can, let's say on your website, if you have different levels of your service, so different levels or different programs or whatever it might be, you can indicate the most popular or the bestseller.
And all you need to do is put a label on it. You've seen it on websites before where businesses specifically call out this package or that service as the most popular or best-selling one.
We've seen through psychological research that doing that, people actually really like it because it helps them take that shortcut of like, well, now I don't have to sit and try to think about which one I'm going to do.
When you put your top services in the spotlight on your website, it's not just a flex. It's you subtly offering a shortcut to your most popular offer. And guess what? This tactic comes in handy not just on your website, but
you could do the same thing in a proposal. So with services. So just like you could do that on your website, if you're creating a proposal and you're giving options, you can indicate which one is the most popular. Which one do most clients or customers select. And so you can do it there. It doesn't necessarily have to just be on your website.
And while you're making it easy for your clients to decide, you can actually make it even more of a no-brainer by adding in a little something extra with a limited edition offer.
Limited edition is just some type of spin on the original. So with services, it could be that for the holiday season, you are doing this special package where someone signs up for this service, they also get this bonus, whatever it might be.
So this could look like bundling a few services together into one package. Like a plumber might put together a winterize your pipes offer every fall that includes several services for one all-in price. Or it could just be a different spin or emphasis on what you already offer. Maybe a vet could offer a golden pause special, a special checkup aimed at senior pets. Or a tutoring service might offer a finals focus package, concentrated study sessions for students in the final weeks leading up to final exams. Each of these offers is rooted in the everyday services that these businesses provide, but tailored just enough to offer something special and timely, amplifying their appeal. And speaking of timely,
time related is a time restriction of some sort, but it could be countdown timers, so counting down to an event that you're having. It could be a sale, so maybe you are offering a promotion for a certain time. So all of that's time related. And what happens in that situation is that someone is now competing with the clock.
So just come up with and get the word out about a deal attached to a deadline. It's the old Black Friday type of deal, and it works for any type of business there is. But it does usually rely on offering some type of discount, which isn't ideal for every business. If you're gonna do it,
just be careful on that one, because if you do too many promotions or you do the same promotion all the time, I'm sure most people have heard this before, you end up devaluing your services, because now they're like, oh, well, your service is just worth what that promotion is. I'm just going to wait till you do your next one. So use that one a little bit carefully.
Time-related offers work best when you time them to your typical slow or off-peak periods, like a moving company that gives you 20% off during midweek moves, or a buy one room, get one free house painting special in the slower winter months. A good lead magnet's supposed to attract your most ideal clients to it like a magnet. But what if your lead magnet just doesn't stick? It happens more than you'd think. Hello, darkness, my old friend. And rather than trying to force it, it's probably a better idea to fix it instead. So in this video, I'm gonna nicely rip apart 6 lead magnets that aren't really capturing people as well as they could. And since this is really all about helping you make the best possible lead magnet for your business, I'm gonna show you how I would personally fix each one of these to be stickier and much more irresistible. So the whole point of using a lead magnet is to build your email list, which is still the #1 most important thing you can do to build that runway of future clients, which is how you build your business. Now, in case you don't know, a lead magnet, otherwise known as a freebie, is just a valuable piece of free content that you give away in exchange for someone's email address. So there are literally hundreds of lead magnet types that you could choose from, but whatever form it takes, they opt in, you deliver it. Usually that process is automated, and then is where the magic really happens. You send more helpful, value-packed emails in the days and weeks that follow to build trust and cement you as the business that they really want to work with. So with that basic understanding out of the way, let's now look at some lead magnets that I was able to find online that fall into some of the really common traps that I see so many small businesses fall into when it comes to creating their lead magnets. And just to be clear here, I am not here to troll these businesses or to be negative. I just want to point out what's likely to hold these back and what I would do differently to boost opt-ins. And hey, you can use these points when planning your lead magnets too, so that you can explode your email list and your runway of future clients. So let's see what we got. All right, so I've got 6 lead magnets pulled up here, so we're gonna take a look at each, and I'm gonna show you what I would change personally to make each perform better. So let's start with this one from Think Active. This is the free at-home exercise ebook. So what's wrong with this? It looks pretty good, right? The design is good. The biggest problem I can see with something like this is just way too general. People know that they can go on YouTube or a million other places and get workouts that they can do at home. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense to ask for someone's email address for something like this. Now, what would I do instead to tweak this, to fix it, to make it perform better? So the first thing I would do is I would want to come up with something to make it a little bit more specific and a little more results based. Because right now all this promises to do is teach me some at-home workouts. You know, there's no result attached to this. There's no end story benefit attached to it. So something more like how to set up your own at-home gym for under $100, something like that. That is a higher value because it has an actual end goal to it. You're setting up a gym. Free home exercises, that's just saying, here's some exercises, go nuts. But anytime you can promise that result in the end, you're gonna do much better. The other thing I would really think about here is the format, right? How many people are going to want to learn exercises from an ebook or a PDF? I wouldn't, right? I would definitely rather go onto YouTube, get some video instruction. So what I would do if this were mine is I would probably restructure this to make it either that, build your gym at home for under $100 or whatever that dollar amount is in a certain period of time. Or if they were going to be exercises you could do at home, I would structure it in a way where it becomes a timed challenge. 5-day challenge, 10-day challenge, 30-day challenge, where every day I'm emailing them a new either workout plan for that day or a new video showing them a new workout that they can add to the stack to get to those results in the end. So anything physical like this, where it's showing a workout or showing something that you have to get moves right to do, does not make a whole lot of sense to do in a written form. I would always rather see a video, and then having that timed challenge really helps it come to life and shows you, okay, if you stick with me here for these 30 days, on the other side, this is the result you're going to get. So much more interesting that way, so much more likely for someone to hand over their email address for something like that. Okay, but now it is time for our second lead magnet. This one is from Horton, and the lead magnet is a case study. So case studies can be great. They can show what you've done for other clients, which is a good way for someone to feel like, you can help them. The problem I have with it when you just say, check out our case study or download our case study, is there's no inherent benefit for the person who's downloading it. So if you read this, it says download to learn more about how we helped create their vision from start to finish. Do you see how business centered that is? About Horton as a business, not about the company that they helped, and certainly not about you, the person who's going to download this to learn something from it. And the good news is here, Horton probably doesn't need to do much at all in terms of reworking the actual content of the lead magnet. I would say a simple renaming, retitling of this will work wonders. I might retitle this something like the behind the scenes secret way one company used its branding to double sales in 30 days and how you can replicate their results. Right? That is still a case study, but it's making it all about the results that not only this company got, but that you can replicate for yourself. So case studies can be good, but you gotta give it the right title. All right, our next lead magnet up here is from B2B Marketing, and this lead magnet is called Evolution to Revolution, How COVID-19 and Behavioral Trends Will Shape the Role of the CMO, Causing a Seismic Shift Towards Marketing-Led Organizations by 2030. Now, I'm betting you can guess what I'm going to say here, right? This is so wordy to the point of being, I'm kind of at a loss here in terms of what this even means to the CMO who's reading this. But when I look down here and I read the description, we've got these bullet points, which I love bullet points when it comes to selling a lead magnet, kind of telling people what they'll be able to achieve or the results they'll get or what they'll learn, that kind of thing. I found one bullet point right down here buried, it's the third one, that I think actually could make for a great lead magnet. It's talking about the qualifications and skills you need to become tomorrow's Chief Marketing Officer. So if this title were to simplify and refocus on how to future-proof your career as a Chief Marketing Officer, something like 5 indispensable skills you need to master to become the CMO of tomorrow and make sure you're never out of a job. That speaks to something very real that people are worried about. Certainly more than this mouthful of a title. And you could tell me, Wes, but this lead magnet is for people who are specialized. That's going to mean something to them. I reject that out of hand. I do not think that language would appeal to almost anybody, even if they're a chief marketing officer or not. Speaking in plain language that actually helps solve a real fear or a real pain point is always going to do much better than writing to impress, which is what this title seems to be doing. Okay, but now on to our next lead magnet. So this one is from Simply Together, and this one is called Rebuild Your Relationship Free 4-Day Challenge. And then it goes on to say, get a free sneak peek into our course and learn what it takes to feel closer and more connected to your man. Okay, so first of all, what do I like about this? I think the main premise of this, Rebuild Your Relationship Free 4-Day Challenge, is pretty strong. Where I think it goes a little sideways is in the description. So what I'm picturing from this is I'm picturing 4 days worth of material where I'm going to build on each thing in order to save my relationship. But what this says is it basically says, no, you're not going to get that. You're just going to get a free sneak peek into our course and learn what it takes to feel closer. Learning what it takes is not the same as doing something or accomplishing something. In other words, the title says I will rebuild my relationship. This says I will learn what it takes to rebuild my relationship. Those are two very different things. And the fact that I am now asking questions about, okay, what is this actually going to be, makes me very unlikely to part with my name and email address right here. So what would I do differently? I already like the concept of this. Now it's just a matter of delivering on the promise of rebuilding the relationship. So what I would rather see in this description then is builds on this, where it's basically saying you'll get 4 daily assignments that when done all together, you will be well on your way to rebuilding your relationship. And then it's just a matter of then following through on that promise and sending out those 4 daily emails as part of the challenge. Okay, now it's time for our next lead magnet, and this is a free ebook, Your Guide to Finding a Better Financial Advisor. Okay, so my big problem with this kind of lead magnet, and I see this one a lot actually, a good lead magnet is not a hiring guide, okay? The best kind of lead magnet solves the problem that someone would need you for to begin with. So in other words, no one's problem is finding a better financial advisor. What's the problem they're facing where they need a financial advisor to begin with? Solve that problem instead. So what you really want to do here is come up with some kind of a lead magnet that's going to help them with their financial problem that you actually charge to fix. So this can be a little micro thing that you can kind of give them a quick win for. It could be some kind of a checklist. It could be a 3-day video series. It could be a starter kit with a few different elements that's going to promise to get their, monthly budget in order, or just some little thing where you've gotten them a little bit of a win that they can see tangibly, and now they're like, okay, cool, what else you got? And that's the beauty of what a lead magnet does. It's supposed to make people, it's supposed to give them a taste of what you can do for them, and now they want more, and you're the person who's gonna give it to them. All right, moving right along to our next lead magnet. This is from The Knot. It's a wedding planning website, and this says a free wedding checklist made for you. Let us pick up the checklist. Okay, clever wordplay there. Add personalized to-dos and organize your day all for free. So on the face of it, this actually seems pretty solid. Where I have questions though, it says a free wedding checklist made for you. If all I'm doing is putting in my email address, and this one's asking for a password, so I guess it's asking me to kind of sign up for The Knot. It's a free service, but I guess that's their tactic here. I'm struggling wondering how this is a wedding checklist made for me, because they're not asking for anything. So what I would probably recommend here to make this stronger is to combine the checklist with a quiz, where basically you're asking like maybe 5 questions in a row, and the result of those answers is going to make a personalized checklist just for me. Now, something like that's incredibly valuable. I'll show you what I mean. There's one I've found from Neil Patel, and this is along the lines I'm talking about. It says, it's a totally different topic, but it's what I'm saying. Want more SEO traffic? Answer 9 quick questions, and I'll give you a step-by-step 7-week action plan showing you exactly what you need to do based on your answers to get more traffic. Now imagine how less enticing this 7-week action plan would be if we didn't answer those questions and if this weren't made just for our specific situation. So quizzes can be an excellent lead magnet, especially when you pair it with personalized action steps that follow, based on the results of the quiz. In this video, you're going to learn the exact 3-part strategy to putting together a customer attracting, deal closing Instagram sales machine. This overall system has everything worked out inside of it. It's going to help you be discovered by more and more prospective customers every day. It'll help you get through to them with repeated exposure, which builds trust and credibility. And best of all, there's a built-in mechanism to actually turn all that attention into dollars on the back end. And to help me unlock the secret to getting all those leads, clients, and sales using Instagram, I've enlisted some help. Help in the form of Queen of Instagram sales strategy herself, Jasmine Starr. So Jasmine, why is Instagram the platform that you chose to build your sales machine on?
There's a kind of like a secret sauce that Instagram has, and that is they capture people's attention best. And so if you are going to just choose a particular platform, you're going to want to choose the platform that has the most stickability, that keeps people there the longest. And Instagram has been serving like hit after hit of keeping people's attention. Every type of content creation, which would be short form video, stories that disappear in 24 hours, things that exist on the feed, a live broadcast component, messaging that is getting more and more personalized. Now, I know TikTok offers a different set of values, but collectively as a whole, I still would bet on Instagram.
So this Instagram sales machine all starts with your irresistible offer, but what makes an offer truly irresistible anyway?
Sports Illustrated articulated this idea better than any other company I've ever seen, and they're probably one of the first founding forefathers of an irresistible offer. Now, during the 80s, they were really trying to push their subscriptions and they were having a hard time. So this magazine subscription was their offer. But what they needed was an irresistible offer, in addition to what they offered, to not make somebody make a decision in general, but to make a decision there and now. So Sports Illustrated tested an idea of an irresistible offer, and what they came up with was a football telephone.
Oh, the McDowell family absolutely had that football phone. I know it all too well.
Okay, so this is it's famous and infamous all at the same time. So what happened was that Sports Illustrated saw a massive spike in magazine subscriptions, not because of just their offer, but in order for somebody to get the phone, they had to do it within a set time period while supplies last. All of those things contributed to what made that offer irresistible, that empowered somebody to make a decision, not just to buy, but to buy right then. What you want to do as a business owner is try to the best of your ability to come up with an irresistible offer that would get somebody from not just making a decision, but making a decision right then. So if we were to use an example of, let's just say, a family photographer. A family photographer's offer is photography services and or photographs from the session. Great, but what's going to make a family book a family photographer right then and there? Could you, for a limited time, let's say during the holidays, a family photographer says, if you book before this date and book this collection, well then I'm going to include 100 designed Christmas cards and pre-addressed envelopes. But they're limited. You must book by this date and it's while supplies last. All of a sudden, somebody's being forced to make a decision of not yes, but yes right now.
And by the way, your irresistible offer doesn't have to, and honestly shouldn't, run all the time. If it did, it really wouldn't have the urgency that it needs. So think of a few different promotions, bonuses, or discounts that you could throw into the mix 3 to 6 times a year.
I'm a big advocate of setting promotions. A promotion could be anything from I'm launching a new podcast to a limited time sale to a holiday driven thing or an incentive for a friends and family. Anything that's going to give you a reason to talk about your same business in a new and different way. So when we talk about making an offer and adding an irresistible offer, we do that within a specific promotional period. This is when we're going to see a spike with strategy for sale.
And since it's so easy to get tripped up here on choosing a less than irresistible offer, I asked Jasmine, so what's a bad idea that people generally have that isn't actually an irresistible offer?
A bad would be more of the same thing you're offering. So if I'm a family photographer, normally a session comes with 50 photos, but if you book before this date, you get 75. It's kind of like I'm still deciding on the same thing, but just more. And sometimes people don't look at value as in more. They value something that is in addition or different.
And Instagram moves pretty fast, which is why it's super important to be incredibly clear on what your offer is and how it can help alleviate a pain point or help them achieve a result that they want. Once you've got your first irresistible offer clearly defined, it's time to move on to part 2, your Instagram sales funnel. For this stage, you're going to be creating regular content in a really smart, strategic way, not just posting some random stuff and seeing if it sticks. And you can think of this content in 2 overall buckets. In the first, you have your regular, everyday, value-based content.
So when we come about creating value, 90% of the content you should be sharing is all about what does my dream customer need to know, need to see, or need to hear at this point in time. And that comes far before the promotional period.
So think of this value-based content as anything that teaches, informs, or even inspires your most ideal customers. The trick is you want to keep it pretty relevant to your offer. So for that family photographer example, you might post about ways to get your babies to look at the camera, or 5 tips for family photos or poses that they can try. You're trying to reach and help those moms or dads out there who are interested in capturing family memories. And the second bucket of content is gonna fill the other 10% of your posts that you'll mostly run during your promo periods, and that content has a very specific purpose. First, you wanna just clearly lay out what the offer is in some of those posts, but also,
what we want to make sure we're showing people is things that will answer their unasked questions. Oh, they're answering something I didn't actually ask, and now I am wiser, smarter, more prepared to make a decision. So what we want to do during this very specific time frame is answer questions, share testimonials, clearly and cleanly address objections. What you're trying to do is have a conversation that feels like it's two-way, but the two-way is coming, I know you so well, I'm gonna create this piece of content so that we feel connected and therefore you trust me more and you're more likely to make a transaction and on sale. So during a promotional period, when I'm clearly and cleanly asking for a transaction, my content will be less value-driven and more sales-driven. But we can't always have sales-driven content because if there's no value, people stop paying attention. If people stop paying attention, they're never gonna see your sales offer.
Great, so how do you get more of your ideal customers to even start seeing your content to begin with? Is it all about hashtags? Well, not exactly.
My answer has always been pouring gas on the floor is not gonna do anything unless you're pouring gasoline on a fire. It doesn't matter what hashtags you're using if the content in it and of itself isn't fire. So statistically speaking, you put out a post and anywhere from 2 to 2.5% of your organic audience will see that. So because I'm not a mathematician, let's just keep it as simple as possible. Let's say you have 1,000 Instagram followers. Generally speaking, around 20 to 25 people are going to see that post. Now, depending on who engages, if it shows your post to say 25 people and 10 people like it and 2 people leave a comment, statistically, that's great measurement for the algorithm to say, well, we just showed this to 25 of Wes's followers. That means if we show it to another 10 and people continue to engage in the same way, their engagement is indicating to the algorithm that more people should be seeing it. This is the exact definition of virality. Instagram will take a post and see how many people are engaging. Very high engagement early on is a good indication that it should show to more people. And if they show it to more people and the exact same amount of people or more engage with it, it means more people should see it, more people should see it, more people should see it. So how do you get more people to see your content? Number one, you're creating content that your dream customer wants to see. It is less about your business and more about what your business does for your followers. When they feel educated, empowered, and or entertained, there is a higher likelihood that they will engage. And once you get that engagement, then it's off to the races thereafter.
And now's a good time for an extra, not so little tip that'll help you get way more reach, whether or not you have even 1 follower right now. And that's going all in on Instagram Reels. Sure, you still need to check all those boxes that Jasmine mentioned, to make sure the people who see your reel watch it and engage with it in some way so that the algorithm shows it to more and more people. But the reason that I think you should hit this type of post extra hard is because Instagram is also hitting it hard. They want to beat TikTok and all the other short form video platforms so badly in the race that they're pushing those reels like crazy, which is going to get you more exposure and more chances to go viral a heck of a lot faster. Not to mention, when you use video and use it often, you'll actually build recognition, trust, and likability a lot faster than you ever could by just sharing still photos or stuff like this. And if you're really trying to build a robust Instagram sales machine like the title of this video promises, you should be posting these short videos as often as you can. Daily if possible, but shoot for at least 3 days a week. And if that scares you or sounds completely undoable with your schedule, I'm telling you it's easier and quicker than you think. First of all, these guys can be incredibly short, like 10 to 30 seconds. Secondly, they don't require a bunch of editing. Record right in the app, then just slap a title on it and you're good to go. Third, I'm a big believer in batching content. So write enough scripts to get you through the next month, then record all of them at once, like in an hour or 2. But all that said, don't cut corners on the quality of the content when you're planning this out. Remember,
it doesn't matter if the content in it and of itself isn't fire.
And I found this really interesting. Going through Jasmine's Instagram reels, she does include some reels that are pretty much text only, and believe it or not, these are some of her highest reaching ones. So maybe pad your numbers out by creating a quote or single tip in text with some trending music, and maybe you can do one of these for, every 5 on-camera reels that you make. Now it's time to actually turn all that hard work into cash with part 3, your strategic close flow. Now, you'll want to layer in more promotional posts that are meant to drive sales or appointments or consultations all year long. Remember, they should be about 10% of your overall posts, but you'll especially want to use them during those promo periods that we talked about.
You want to make sure that in order for somebody to make a decision within a specific time frame, that there are incentives and reminders. You want to make sure that the content you're putting out during this promotional period is reminding people that the offer or the shape of the offer will disappear. Or perhaps you have things that are attached to it, like let's say a bonus, let's say doors are closing, let's say limited seats or limited time value, a limited discount. Whatever it is, something must disappear or be taken away, which causes somebody to say, well, I don't want to lose out on. Oftentimes people as business owners, what we want to do is talk about all the good, and people are like, great, I agree with the good. But when you contextualize it for what do you miss out, what do you lose out on, there's this thing of, hey, what is the opportunity cost for not investing in the football phone, not investing in this photography, not booking this business coach, not going to this chiropractor? There's something that somebody loses by saying no. We must remind them during this time and then give them a specific date as to when they should make their decision.
And I know that social proof is really important in the closing phase, so how can we use that?
Inserting testimonials that facilitate the promise. It's not enough to say, wow, this program worked for me. The best testimonials are, this is a specific way that this offer, program, or product helped me get the results that I wanted. So we're speaking directly to our followers' unstated desires and saying, wow, this person knows exactly what it is I want. They helped somebody else achieve a very similar goal. I believe I can do that if I invest. And then we remind, yes, you want to invest to not miss out on irresistible bonus, closed doors, bonuses disappearing, buy one, get one free, things of that nature.
So other than posting about your promotions, there's another important part to this close flow that we're talking about, and that's actually closing, right? And as the kids say, it all goes down in the DMs. That's what they say, right? Yes, that's what they say. And for a lot of more spammy businesses, this means a lot of cold prospecting and cold DMing strangers, just hitting them up for a sale. But that's not what this strategy is all about. It doesn't need it, because that's what all your posts and reels have been doing all along, attracting people to you so that all you need to do is respond to their DMs when they want to know more about your offer.
Oftentimes, if people have questions or they're doubting, that's where the DMs come in. And DMs are so powerful in closing sales because the direct message speaks directly to them, so they feel known, seen, and heard. And they often will respond by saying, if Wes is showing up for me in a DM to respond and make sure I'm seen, how much more would he show up once I have transacted on behalf of his business? The DMs are a powerful way to close sales.
And if you want to make your DM responses even more powerful, one of my favorite pro tips here is to answer as many questions as you can with the voice memo feature. So imagine following someone on Instagram and you've seen a bunch of their reels and posts, and then you get a personalized voice response from them. It just makes them feel special and, like Jasmine says, seen and heard. That little extra touch that honestly is faster to do than typing out a response anyway is gonna generate a massive amount of goodwill and boost sales big time. I read 17 marketing books this year alone. Okay, who am I kidding? I listened to most of them, and while I learned a lot, these 3 secrets were by far the most impactful and helpful for anyone who's trying to market their small business and increase their profits. And the cool thing is, these aren't just 3 random unrelated lessons. If you stick around for all of them, you can actually stack them one on top of the next for what I would consider to be the overall perfect marketing super strategy. So you'll increase awareness, traffic, desire, and most importantly, sales. And you don't need to read 17 different books, because I'm gonna cover all the good parts and connect the dots for you in this video. Okay, so let's start strong with the first secret. There are 5 easy pieces to market any business. Now this one comes from the book Marketing Made Simple by Donald Miller and J.J. Peterson. Because sales don't happen as a result of any one thing. Not an ad, not an email, not even your website. It's a smart strategic combination of different marketing pieces put together in the right sequence that does it. As the book states, most believe marketing is an art, not a science. We disagree. While there is art involved, it is very much a science you can learn. And the book goes on to prove that point by laying out the exact 5 pieces of marketing collateral that you need to create, along with the why, and more importantly, the how to do it part. So the reason this works so well is because these 5 pieces can all be mapped onto the 3 stages of sales psychology: curiosity, enlightenment, and finally, commitment. And here's the exact list of what the authors say you'll need to create. It all starts with the one-liner, or as they put it, the one magical sentence that will grow your business. It's basically your elevator pitch, a really short and succinct statement that you can use to clearly explain what you offer. And the way they explain how to create this one-liner just follows a really simple formula. You bring up the problem your customers are facing, then your solution, then the end result it creates for them. Oh, and you have to do all of it in 1 or 2 sentences. And because I know how much examples can help, here's one that they used in the book for a dentist office. Most parents get stressed when they think about taking their child to the dentist. That's the problem. At Kids' Teeth, our fun and welcoming office puts kids at ease. That's the solution, so they aren't afraid and their parents actually enjoy the dentist visit. The result. This is not only a really valuable exercise in just being able to explain what you do in a simple, quick way that everyone can understand and see the value in, but you can use this in pretty much all your marketing, including your social media profiles, business cards, your emails, and your website, which just so happens to be the next item you need to create. But not every website works, and as they say in the book, your website isn't a place to celebrate yourself. Your website is a place where you sell your customer a product that solves their problem and makes their lives better. Next, you need a lead magnet, or as they call it in this book, a lead generator. This is essentially just a helpful, usually downloadable piece of content that you give away for free in exchange for an email address. This can be as simple as a PDF checklist or as complex as a video training series, but whatever format it takes, your lead generator should promise to deliver a result and then make good on that promise. So no, this should not be a sign up for our newsletter or the 6 things you need to know before creating an Etsy shop. Nobody wants a newsletter or to know more things. They want a result. They want a good outcome. So lead with that. Once they opt in with their email address, you'll set it to auto-deliver to them using whatever email program you like to use, like whether it's MailChimp or ConvertKit. And hopefully they act on it and you've actually helped them get a quick win, because that's going to kickstart the trust building process and make your business more memorable. Plus, you now have their email, which is what makes marketing pieces 4 and 5 possible. Those are nurture and sales email campaigns. This part is super important because the follow-up emails that you send out after someone's opted in for your lead magnet are where the money is. People come to your website once, that's great, but the trouble is, if they're in the 96% of people who don't buy because they aren't ready yet or they just don't trust you as a business yet, who's to say they're ever gonna come back? But when you send weekly emails that show them a new tip or advice or way to get the result they're after, you're accomplishing 2 goals. For one, you're building a crazy amount of trust. And second, you're staying in front of them as a business over and over again. And that repetition is key to ultimately getting the sale. And speaking of sales, that's the final marketing piece from this book, sales emails. So it's all well and good to keep helping your prospects, but there comes a time to put up or shut up, right? And by that, I mean you eventually need to ask for the sale, or at least give them the option for you to really help them with your paid service or product. And when you have all 5 of these pieces of marketing working together, you have a really dialed in sales funnel that converts at a much higher rate because you're speaking to people at every stage of the buyer's journey. You're making them curious with your one-liner. Then your website, lead magnet, and nurture emails are enlightening them about what you can do for them. And finally, your sales emails will get them to commit. And this does all ultimately come down to having the right website that can support the whole funnel. And again, click the link down in my description to sign up for my free masterclass, where I'll show you everything you need for that. Okay, time for marketing secret number 2, the value equation. Now, this principle comes from one of my favorite books I read all year. It's called $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozi. And what I love most about this book is that it's not about changing what you offer at all. It's just about changing how you talk about it that can help you sell way more of your offers for significantly more money. And to do that, you need to make people see the true value of what you can offer them. But most businesses and marketers tend to focus on the what this will do for you part, but that's just one piece of the puzzle. This equation actually outlines 4 components that go into how valuable an offer is perceived to be. So in section 3 of the book, Alex says that if you provide enough value, your offer should always be a steal for the prospect. So on the top line, we have the dream outcome and the perceived likelihood of achievement. In other words, how good is the outcome you're promising, and how likely is it that your business will actually get them that outcome? Then on the bottom line is the time delay, or how long they have to wait to get it, and effort and sacrifice. In other words, how much work are they gonna have to personally put into it? The way this works is you want to use the words on your website and any of your other marketing materials to make the top 2 components seem as high as possible. The dream outcome should be big, and the likelihood of achievement should be really high. And this is where most amateurs focus all their effort, by inflating these top parts to ridiculous levels that can kind of come across as skeezy used car salesman tactics. What they don't realize, but Alex does, is that most really successful companies actually focus just as much, if not more, on decreasing the bottom line elements. How can you communicate that it won't take much time to get good results, or that your customers don't have to put in a lot of work to get what they want? And of course, every business is different, and you may need to focus more on the top line stuff if you can't claim that it's quick or easy, or you might need to focus more on the bottom line if you can't promise you'll fundamentally change someone's life for the better. But in really simple terms, the higher you can get the top line and the closer to 0 you can get the bottom line, the better. And again, use the words on your website to convey all of this. It can literally be as simple as 4 sections just stacked on top of each other, talking about each element. There are a ton of ways you could do it. Just make sure you address all 4 and you're golden. Okay, now for the 3rd valuable marketing secret: video is non-negotiable. This comes from the absolutely game-changing book, They Ask, You Answer by Marcus Sheridan. Here's the truth. The way we make buying decisions has changed dramatically over the last decade. In fact, 70% of those decisions happen before your customers have ever even had a sales conversation with you or anyone in your business. So what changed? Well, smart businesses started creating helpful content that they put online that helped their customers arrive at a decision all by themselves. And really smart businesses know that video is by far the best way to put that information out there into the world. The only question is, are your potential customers going to find helpful video content from your competition or from you? If you can produce helpful videos that educate your potential customers on how to get results for themselves, or that helps them figure out their options, answers their questions proactively, and helps them make the best decisions for them, you're just gonna build up massive amounts of goodwill and trust. Which is a great thing because, like it or not, with so much information readily available online, only the most trusted businesses can even hope to survive. And while the author Marcus Sheridan does concentrate most on what he calls the selling 7, or the 7 different types of videos you can create that will help you make more bottom of funnel sales, video can do quite a bit for your top of funnel marketing too. So if you make the right educational or how-to videos and title them right, that's how a lot of your future customers can actually find you in the first place. You can put these videos right here on YouTube, then embed them on your website to get found in both Google and YouTube searches. And since the videos he goes into are mostly about sales, I will go over a few of those types because they can actually be pretty useful for your marketing too. And the first one he talks about is called the 80% video. So this is pretty much just a series of videos that each answers a question that roughly 80% of your customers regularly ask you. These can be super short and sweet, and you can put them on your service pages, on your FAQs page, or in your social media. He then recommends taking your top 7 questions and putting them into one longer supercut, which becomes your finished 80% video. So why 7, right? Sheridan says that we've simply found with our own clients that 7 tends to be the most effective number. So another video he recommends making is the product and service fit video. So these are going to go on your homepage if you just sell one product or service, or on your various product and service pages if you have more than one. And each video in this category will just say who your service is for, and more importantly, who it's not for. And I love this quote because it sounds counterintuitive to come right out and say who you're not for, right? Well, Marcus has a different opinion on that. He says the minute we're willing to say what we're not is the precise moment we become dramatically more attractive to those for whom we are a good fit. Next, he recommends creating cost and pricing videos. So earlier in this book, Marcus has a whole section about why you need to address pricing on your website, and the reasons are pretty compelling. Ultimately, it's all about being really transparent to build trust, and this video can accomplish that. Plus, it can be a great way for people to find you when they search for pricing information online, which pretty much everybody does. And even if you can't just say, we charge this exact price for this exact service, your pricing video or videos should at least address the factors that you base your pricing on. Also, you want to talk about your industry's pricing in general. So where do you fit into the spectrum, and why are you higher priced or lower? And if you can properly work on what we talked about in the last big lesson, the value equation, this will really help you sell your specific value there. And he recommends creating one cost video for every major product or service you sell. Next, we have customer journey videos, which are essentially a case study where you show from start to finish what you did for a previous customer, starting from their initial problem, all the way through the solution you provided and the end result. The biggest reason why digital marketing feels hard is because of all the bad advice floating around out there. So to make sure you don't fall for any of that, check out this video next, where I react to some of the worst marketing advice I've ever seen on TikTok. I'll tell you why it's bad and what to do instead. So click right here and let's avoid some really common marketing mistakes.